Hi everyone and welcome to the very first episode of This Mama Runs podcast. I'm the host Erin of This Mama Runs podcast. I'm also known as This Mama Runs _83 over on Instagram. If you've come across this on YouTube or you've come across it on podcasters, if you're on Instagram, head over to Instagram, give my page a quick like and follow, see what I'm up to in regards to my training and running and races. But more importantly, head over to This Mama Runs podcast page and give it a quick like and follow. I can't build this without the help of people following and liking and subscribing. So please, let's help grow a community. And also, I have just set up the This Mama Runs club page on Instagram as well, and that is going to be geared towards mamas that run. So head over there and give it a quick like and follow. I will be starting to do a feature Friday. So we need to hashtag This Mama Runs Club, hashtag the shit out of it. And we'll get the feature Fridays up and on the go as well. So I'm very excited. I never dreamt of doing something like this up until around 5 weeks ago. So this is still all very new to me. And yeah, it's a bit daunting. But it is what it is, and I'm excited to give it a go, because if you don't try, you don't know. And that's my philosophy. So let's get started. This episode is just an introduction to me. And then I'm excited because I've got people lined up to come on and talk to me already. So I'm looking forward to getting those recordings on the go and finding out their stories and what makes these people tick and why they do what they do. So I'm very excited to get that on the go. So about me, I am a 40-year-old 40-year-old married mum of two, originally from Ireland and living in the UK, and I've been in the UK for around 14 years now. Specifically Bolton. As you can tell, it's not my best Bolton accent, but that's me in a nutshell. In regards to my Instagram page, when I set that page up, I never imagined it would grow in followers to what it has grown to. It's crazy. Every time somebody new follows me, it just blows my mind, because I think, why do these people want to know about me and me bitching my way through my training? I set this page up back in 2020 as a way of keeping me accountable and looking back on my running journey. So it's unbelievable. And to everybody that likes and follows me and listens to me moan and curse out my coach, then thank you. I try to keep that page as real as possible, show the highs and the lows of my running journey, and just keep it as light as possible. I don't filter my photos. I complain a lot about my running, but I really love what I do, and it's become a massive passion and part of my life now. And I never thought it would be, when I set that page up and my journey as well, started my journey, I never thought it would be what it is today. And I can only hope that with the races that I do, it will become so much more. And I hope that this podcast becomes so much more. I want to be able to inspire people to push their limits and see what they're able to achieve. So if you follow me closely on Instagram, you will know, and this is not something that I post about very, very often, because I just don't post about it very, very often. This was back then, and I'm more for the here and now. But if you do follow me closely on Instagram, you will have seen me post older photos of the person that I was back in 2019. The person sitting here now talking to you is not the person that I was back in 2019. I was, to give you a bit of insight, I was clinically obese, horrendously overweight, severely unfit, I was hefty. I was hefty, man. And then in June 2019, I decided enough was enough. I had two kids and I needed to show them that, you know, mum has discipline, mum is consistent, and I needed to show them a healthier lifestyle than what they were seeing. My problem was I had two hands and one mouth. So, June 2019, I made the decision to start losing weight. And from June 2019 to into Christmas 2020, I'd done that via food choices. At that time, I think I had probably lost around 5 stone in that 6 months. It seemed to come off, thank God, very, very easily. And I just, like I say, done it through food choices and just eating healthier, eating whole foods, eating meat and not ultra processed crap. So that was into December 2020, and Christmas comes around, and as we all do between Christmas and New Year, we all start deciding on our New Year's resolutions. So I decided in December 2019 for my New Year's resolution, I was going to run a 5K. So I downloaded the Couch to 5K app. I bought my very first pair of running trainers, which were Asics. And I took myself out. And I followed that plan and I stuck to that plan. It was actually me and a friend at the time decided to do it. Running, it stuck for me. It stuck for me because I think I had built the mindset of discipline and consistency in regards to the choices that I was making in the 6 months prior to starting my running journey. Or I had laid the foundational work. So that was January 2020. Off I went and I done it. I followed that plan and I was hitting those goals and hitting those milestones every week. Run, walk, run, walk, run, walk, run, walk. To give you a crude idea on how the app works. So with every goal that I hit on that, I started getting, I was becoming, at that time, I didn't know what a runner's high was. I was clearly feeling what a runner's high was at the time, but I knew that I was enjoying it and I wanted to continue it. And it consumed my soul and I finished it, and kind of coming towards the end of Couch to 5K, that's when I decided to set my Instagram up to, again, like I say, to keep myself accountable. At the time of setting my Instagram up as well and finishing my Couch to 5K training plan, I had come across a community on Instagram called Wild Runners, and they had started following me and I had started following them back, and that was a way of keeping me accountable as well. They done a feature Friday or 5K Friday, and I started going out every Friday because I wanted to feature. So that was a way of keeping me getting out there as well. In regards to, this is why running communities, I think, especially for new runners, are so important. Wild Runners were so welcoming and they didn't care what level you were at in regards to your running, and I gained so much knowledge from the people that were in that group. So that was 2020, or the beginning of 2020, and I done it and I finished Couch to 5K. And yeah, from finishing Couch to 5K and heading through the year, all I done was run. I wanted to see how far I could push myself. I wanted to get to the 10K mark. I mean, it wasn't fast and it wasn't pretty, but I pushed it, and I was able to see that I was able to do it. You know that you're able to do it because you finished the 5K app. So why can't you, if you're able to run 5K, why can't you run 10K? Um, for me, I always felt that I as a runner, I never classed myself as a runner. I was just somebody that was out there trying. And we have a run group here in the area that I live in, and I used to find out when they would go out and do their runs so I could actively avoid them and not meet them on the street, because who was I to be out there running whilst the running club was out doing their runs? I wasn't a runner. I was just someone pretending. But that mindset has changed, and I you just, your mindset changes as you progress and things like that. So I started pushing the time and I started pushing the distance, and I started getting my started upping the distance and and pushing the time. I was doing speed work unknowns to myself, because I would push myself a little bit harder and then back off, and then push myself a little bit harder and then back off. Obviously, you don't know. And that's okay, because you're just starting out. You're never going to learn anything. Heck, I'm 4 years into it now, and I still don't know half the stuff that I probably should, or half the stuff that Bob down the street in my local run club knows. But that's okay, because it's a journey, and it's a learning curve, and that's what makes it exciting. So that's what I done through 2020. I just kept running, and I done it because I loved it, and I was getting these runners highs, and it was amazing. And yeah, at this point I hadn't entered any races. Q 2021, and that's when I entered my first race, and it was the Bolton Night Run that was hosted by Ironman have a race, the Ironman, um, every year here in Bolton, and then they host a race, a 5K race, um, a couple of nights before the Ironman race begins. So I entered my very first race in 2021, the Bolton Night Run, and at that point, you do what you do. You're pushing for your sub 35K. You're pushing your distance to see how far you can go. And I was pushing my distance, and I wanted my sub 30. I wanted my sub 35K on that race, and I got it. I ran that. I ran my very first race, and I've made notes, so if you see, I'm looking down, I'm looking at my notes. I ran my very first race in 27 minutes and 50 seconds. So coming from where I was in 2019, that girl, to hitting a sub 35K, I mean, yay, I've just dropped a pen. Yay, it was an amazing feeling, and again, cue the runner's high, because what an achievement. Heck, and I stood on that start line of my first race, and I thought to myself, who again the hell am I to be standing on this start line? Who do I think I was? And hell, I still get that feeling and I still question myself, especially this year. My God, I'm questioning myself this year in regards to these races that I'm going into, but I will talk more about that because I'm so excited. So that was 2021, my very first race, 27 minutes and 50 seconds. I had something to prove to myself then. And with the wild runners community as well, you build friendships. You build friendships with these people. And one person in particular who doesn't live that far from me introduced me to trail running, Steve. He lives in Beckup, and he invited me up to the hills of Beckup to basically start my trail running journey. I now class myself more as a trail runner because that's where my heart is. I love getting on the trails. And but running roads at the minute is just a necessary evil as I'm building my confidence to run on dark trails in the early mornings. So the bulk of my training is at the minute on the footpaths in the mornings. But again, I'll talk more about that in a bit. So 2022, I started my trail running journey. It was amazing. It was, oh man, unless you run trails, you'll just never know. You'll just never know. Hills, elevation, all this was brand new to me, and I probably broke myself a little bit getting it done, but it's just unbelievable. So that's when I started my trail running in 2022. Again, I hadn't entered any races. It was just a case of me out there doing it, one foot in front of the other, and just enjoying myself, and just having fun on the hills, on the trails. And I can only liken trail running to being on a roller coaster, especially when you're in mountains and you have the slog of the uphill and then you've got the downhill. It's unbelievable. So again, in 2022, I decided to run the Bolton Night Run 2022 because, like I say, I had something to prove to myself. I ran that one in 25 minutes and 50 seconds. So I had taken a really good time off from the previous year. And it was, again, it was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, I hadn't really trained because I didn't understand training blocks and I didn't understand things like that. I just knew it and I just pushed it and I just went for it. Like a rough diamond, just boosh, get it done. Because I needed to better my time on that previous year of 27 minutes and 50 seconds. This race is very special to me. This is a race that I will continue to run every year. Now, I don't know if I'm going to better my time on last year when I run it in June. I just don't know. But I am sure as heck going to give it my best shot. So that was June 2021. It was 25 minutes and 50 seconds I came in. And then I decided I decided in October 2022 that I was going to run my first half marathon. Again, who the hell did I think I was that I was good enough to run a half marathon? And I remember vividly sitting in Costa and thinking to myself, who do I think I am? Who do I think I am that I'm able to run 13.1 miles? And I was so close to pulling out of that race because I didn't think that I was good enough to do that, and I didn't think that I was going to be able to pull that off. And then I remember Dan from the Wild Runners community had said to me, if you can run 10k, you can run 13.1 miles. It's just 10k twice. And that's something that has stuck with me. He may not remember telling me that, but that is something that has stuck with me ever since. It's just 10k twice. Absolutely. If you can run 10k, you can run 13.1 miles. It's 10k twice. So again, on that start line with these awesome runners, and I went for it. And I ran that race in 2 hours and 10 minutes. And that was the first time that I had ever ran that kind of distance. So again, going from 2019 to 2022, in the space of 2 years of consistently running and being disciplined and getting myself out, I managed a half marathon distance in 2 hours, 10 minutes. Now, it wasn't a solid 13.1 miles. It was running and walking. And that's how I managed that half marathon, which is fine, which is absolutely fine. So that kind of ended the racing of 2022 for me. 2023 is when everything kind of took off in regards to trail running, in regards to pushing my distance to big distance. Well, in my view, big distance, and to learning about proper training blocks and the benefits of speed work and the benefits of training efficiently, basically. Um, like I say, I still don't know a whole lot in regards to running and things like that. For me, it's one foot in front of the other. Get yourself a decent pair of trainers and just go for it. Um, but in 2023, a lot happened for me. That was the year I went up into the Lake District and started fell running. That was the year that I ran in the January. I ran my big, the very first of my big distances, which was 34 kilometers after the Manchester half. I figured I can run 13.1 miles now. How much more can I do? So Colin and Dan and the Wild Runners community, these two had funded the Wild Runners community, and I had built up a friendship with them on Instagram. And they introduced me to Rasselbach. So that's where I done my 34 kilometers at Rasselbach. It was a 6 hour race, and it was go out and run as many loops as you possibly can in that 6 hours. Now, I don't know, maybe I could have done more, but I took my time on it, and 34 kilometers is what I had done, which was fine for me at the time. It absolutely was. So I knew that I could push the half marathon distance, that I could get myself past the 21 kilometers, and hit into the 30 kilometers. And that gave me a little bit of a taster for maybe I can go a little bit more. And how far can I go? It's all to do with your mindset, and it's all to do with how much you want to push yourself and what you're willing to do to achieve the distance that you want to achieve. So that was January 2023. Like I say, I went into the Lake District, and that was April, May time last year. I got introduced to the Wainwrights. For anyone that doesn't know, there's 214 Wainwrights in the Lake District, and people go up to the Lake District to bag 214 basically mountains. And it's Alfred Wainwright walked these mountains and then wrote books on the routes. So people go up to the Lake District to bag their Wainwrights. I think I have around 19 of them now, and I have set myself a challenge to get all 214 by the time I turn 45. So I've got 4.5 years. Well, just under 4.5 years now to go to get my 214 Wainwrights. Colin introduced me to these. He was just finishing he was on the precipice of finishing off his Wainwrights, and he invited me up last year to go and bag some Wainwrights with him, because like I say, he was finishing off last year. So obviously when you're invited to the Lake District, you're going to go to the Lake District. Who doesn't want to climb a mountain? So up I went. I live an hour and a half from the Lake District. I've lived in Manchester for the best part of 13 years. I've never been to the Lake District, and what a way to be introduced to them than starting your Wainwrights journey. So that started me on that, and I am currently in the process of bagging my Wainwrights. As the weather gets a bit better, I'm not confident enough yet to take myself up in the darker mornings and the darker evenings. I need to wait for a stretch in the days. So when the weather becomes a bit better as well, I'll be heading back up to the Lake District to bag some more Wainwrights. So I spent a fair bit of time in the Lake District last year bagging my Wainwrights. And last year as well was the very first year that I started my OCRs. I done 2 OCRs last year, Wolf Run and Forest Warrior. So Wolf Run was my first OCR, and I will at some point this year run another Wolf Run because it's fun and it's mud and it's all the good stuff. So yeah, after that I then ran. I ran with Steve, Leonie, and Pete the Yorkshire Three Peaks, and we ran that for charity. We ran it for the ADHD Foundation's umbrella project, and we raised enough money to put we ran it to raise money to put one umbrella project in a school, but we raised enough money to put three umbrella projects in three different schools. So that made that worthwhile. If for anybody that doesn't know what the Yorkshire Three Peaks is, it's three peaks basically in Yorkshire. It's Ghent, Whernside, and Ingleton. Um, and I think we ran that in around 6 hours. I got severely sunburned. I got so severely sunburned that day. It wasn't even that sunny, um, but it must have been the UV, the UV, in the atmosphere or whatever. But my God, I would do it again to give something back, um, and raise funds for charity again because it was amazing. Now I have something to prove to myself on that one, and I will take myself back up to the Yorkshire Three Peaks and run it and see if I can bring the time down on last year. Again, it's just a personal challenge, and it really is true what they say. For me, anyway, I don't run races to race. I run races against myself to see if I can always better my time and better myself and better my distance. Um, I am my own biggest critic, and I will always strive to push myself that little bit further to see how far I can go. So that was the Yorkshire Three Peaks. Then I came off the back of that, and then it was, I think it may have been 2 weeks later, I went and I ran my very first backyard ultra in the May. Um, wow, that to date has been my biggest distance, and I covered 70 kilometers on that. For anybody that doesn't know what a backyard ultra is, it is 4.18 miles or something like that, in a loop. You go out every hour on the hour, and you have to be in starting coral on the hour to head out onto course. If you don't, you get disqualified or you get timed out. So that's what I done last year. On probably, I would say, one of the warmest days in May. It was it was scorching. Um, so I and it's called a yard. A loop is called a yard. So I had ran 10 yards, and I think it came in around 69 kilometers. And me being me, not content with not content with leaving it at 69 kilometers. I needed to round it off, and I needed a nice even number. So I timed out on my 10th yard. I knew I was going to time out in my 10th yard. I never expected to get to 70 kilometers. Jay, who was crewing myself and Colin at the time, God bless Jay, he was amazing. He, I remember he said to me, "We'll easily get you to 60 kilometers," and with that, and with hearing that, I was like, right, okay, yeah, maybe I can get to 60 kilometers. Not expecting to get to the 70 kilometers. I pushed on, and I think to myself, in hindsight now, looking back, could I, because I walked the final yard, could I have just maybe, if I had have pushed just that little bit more, could I have done more? Could I have went further, and could I maybe have got 80 kilometers? But it is what it is, and I got 70 kilometers. I learned a lot on that. I learned what you put your body through. And I liked it. I mean, I lost 3 toenails. I lost 3 toenails on that run. Delightful. Um, I felt sick on that run. I thought at one point that I was going to throw up. Um, but you push through, and I will take that and those lessons and learn from it, and know that I can push through and take that into the backyard ultra that I'm going to be running in a couple of weeks' time. So 70 kilometers to date is my biggest distance. I now have something again to prove to myself, which I will be taking into the backyard ultra that I'm going to be running at the beginning of March. So that was May. And then again in June, I went and I ran the Bolton night run, and I ran that one in 25 minutes and 24 seconds. So year on year, I've bettered the time that I've ran that 5K in. So I don't know what this year's going to bring me in regards to that, but fingers crossed. We'll just have to wait and see. Watch this space. And then between June and June, July, and August, I was up in the Lake District doing Wainwrights, and I had taken myself. So Colin at this point had finished his Wainwrights journey, and I had nobody to go to the Lake District with anymore. My Lake District buddy had finished. So I decided I was going to take myself up to the Lake District on my own. I plotted my route. I consulted Google Maps. I consulted OS Maps. I learned how to use OS Maps 11 bazillion times. And I took myself up to the Lake District and I ran the Fairfield Horseshoe. That was the scariest. That was the scariest and most exhilarating and exciting experience I've ever had. I was in the Lake District. The Clyde was rolling over the hills. It was just spectacular. I was up there on my own. I didn't see a single person until I was coming off the Fairfield Horseshoe. And I think it must have been the last fell that it was on, and people were starting to come up that way. I had ran it anti-clockwise, and people were coming up clockwise. And I was up there on my own on the Clyde, and it was scary, but my God, it was exciting. And again, you'll just never know unless you do it. Go and start your Wainwright's journey. So that's what I had done. Spent time in the Lake District between May and October. And then in October last year, I ran my second half marathon race, my official second half marathon race. And that was the Amsterdam half. I had something to prove to myself from Manchester half. I needed to run that race in a better time than 2 hours 10 minutes. Now, throughout the year of 2023, I was doing a challenge called Race the Machine, where you run 1,500 meters, you run 3 kilometers, you run 5 kilometers, you run 10 kilometers, you run 10 miles, you run a half marathon distance. You start off with your 1,500 meters and you go out and you run it as fast as you can. You submit your time to the machine, and the machine gives you a time back that you need to run your 3 kilometers in. So this is what I was doing last year as well. And I had saved my half marathon distance, knowing that I was going into the Amsterdam half for Race the Machine. The machine had given me a time of 2 hours 10 minutes. Sorry, not 2 hours 10 minutes, 2 hours 4 minutes. So I went into the Manchester half. I went into the Amsterdam half with 2 hours 4 minutes in my head, and that's what I needed to do in regards to bettering my time on the Manchester half. And I done it. I ran the Amsterdam half. Now, I ran this with no training block, just basically going off everything that I'd kind of done in the year. and my time in the lakes and the elevation and everything. I think if I was to run another half marathon race, then I would probably do a proper training block. But I have no plans at the minute to run a half marathon race. But I ran the Amsterdam half in an hour 57 minutes. So I bettered my time on the Manchester half. I beat my expectations of 2 hours 4 minutes, and it came in an hour 57 minutes. And doing that with no proper training was just amazing. Because again, when you especially for someone like me, I'm not the most confident of runners. I still class myself as a novice runner. I'm very average, and you know, to consistently beat your times and better your distance and things like that is just, it's amazing. And it's amazing to see if you have the right mindset and you're disciplined and you're consistent with your training, then what it is that you can actually achieve. So yeah, an hour 57 minutes. And I went and I got my medal engraved with that time. And yeah, just unbelievable. And to do it in Amsterdam as well, like fun. So I thought that had finished me for the year, but it didn't. I found another race on Instagram via Limitless Trails in Wales, and it was a half marathon, and you could run around the Brecon Beacons dressed up in Christmas attire. So who doesn't want to run around the Brecon Beacons dressed up in Christmas gear? I booked myself on, drove 4 hours down to Wales, dressed up as an elf, ran round the Brecon Beacons dressed as an elf, and just had the best fun. Now that was tough. That was absolutely so tough. That course, the elevation, it was unbelievable. But we had got the best day. The views were unbelievable. It was absolutely Baltic, but it was crisp and it was clear and it was beautiful and it was magical. And I met some great people and had the best time dressed as an elf running around the Brecon Beacons. To then drive 4 hours back up to Manchester. It was just so much fun. Dress as an elf and go and run in the Brecon Beacons, man. So that had ended my racing for 2023. But in 2023, I also took Colin on as a coach. He offered to coach me. Because I had been talking to him previously in August. We had ran Forest Warrior, and he knew that I had wanted to run a sub 50 10k. So with that, he was in the process of doing his coaching qualification, and he offered to take me on as one of his athletes. Finally honed athlete. He had offered to take me on as one of his athletes. Obviously I wasn't saying no. So I had talked to him and I was asking him, how am I going to get it? How am I going to get my sub 50 10k? And if anybody watches my stories on Instagram, I did post at the time in December when I had ran it, and he said to me, speed work. Fucking speed work. I'm not built for speed work. I do not believe that I am built for speed work. But he started giving me training plans for my sub 50 10k. And that was the first time from starting to run in 2020 into 2023 that I had followed, other than Couch to 5k, that I had followed any kind of structured running plan. I loved it and hated it all at the same time. I absolutely loved it and hated it all at the same time. It was just, God, what poor Colin had to listen to. I swore him out daily. I absolutely swore him out daily. But I had done it. It wasn't easy. My God, it wasn't easy. Running isn't easy, and I'm not going to say that it is easy, but it's unless, like I say, unless you do it, you just never know. I struggled at points in that training plan. I put so much pressure on myself because I didn't want to let Colin down because he was so amazing to give me these training plans. And yeah, I had struggled. I had absolutely struggled at times with that training plan. I will never forget this. I was out on my long run and I had suffered a panic attack because of the pressure that I was putting on myself to hit those goals. Um Looking back, I won't suffer any more panic attacks because I've learned a lesson from it, and probably not to put so much pressure on myself. I'm not going to hit every training plan the way I expect to hit it. I I am very much, if I'm going to do something, I'm doing it. I'm giving it my everything. Um and I have to learn to be okay with the fact that my running isn't going to go to plan, or my training plans aren't going to go to plan 100% of the time. And I struggle with that because, like I say, when I do it, I give it my everything. Um, and I'd suffered this panic attack, and I now have learned that I need to be okay with knowing that it's not always going to go to plan. Um, and then just other runs, speed work. I struggled with the speed work as well. I felt like I wasn't hitting those intervals properly. But heck, man, I'd done it. I ran my sub 50 10K on a training run. Now, I hadn't set out to do that on a training run. I felt happy, I felt comfortable, and I was able to do it. And on that training run, I hit, again, I have it wrote down, that's why I'm looking. I hit my sub 50 10K in 49 minutes and 43 seconds. And I took a photo of it on my watch and had sent it to Colin. And I was like, what the hell just happened? So then he rang me, and he was like, well, did you go out and do a 10K time trial? I was like, no, I was just doing a training run. So we had a good chat, and he had said to me, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to end the training there, or do you want to continue? Obviously, I was like, no way, man. I'm keeping going with this. I now have something that I need to prove, and I need to hit that training plan the way that it was set out for me. Because the plan was to always go out on New Year's Eve and run my sub 50 10K. So I did. I continued on with the training plan, and I just kept going, and I followed the plans and that Colin had given me. And I went out on New Year's Eve, and I bettered the time of my 10K from the 49 minutes and 43 seconds. I took that time down to 48 minutes and 14 seconds on New Year's Eve for my 10K, my sub 50 10K. Not only did I get my sub 50 10K, I also bettered my 5K time. I ran my 5K of the 10K in 23 minutes and 1 second. So I set myself a new 5K and a new 10K time. Training works, speed work works. Ugh, as much as I hate to admit it. And Colin telling me speed work. Fuck you, Colin. I I had ran my sub 50 10K and my sub 25 my sub 25 5K. So that ends me for 2023, and now I'm in 2024. I've just come off Rasselback run, or the Rasselback winter run, and I ran 50 kilometers there, and I done it in 5 hours and 40 minutes. Um, I knew the distance that I wanted to do at the Rasselbach run, and I went there focused and determined to get the distance that I wanted. Um, and that was the first time that I had entered a zone. I can't describe I can't describe it. I knew I knew I had wanted this distance, and nothing was going to nothing was going to deter me from getting it. Now, again, if you follow me on Instagram, you will hear, you will have probably read about me moaning about my left leg. I suffer um with pain at times in my left leg, my glute, my hamstring, my calf, my Achilles tendon just sometimes does not want to play ball, and it really, really hurts. And during the course of training for that sub 50 10K, my God, it was painful. Um, and on the run, at in Sherwood Pines, the Rasselbach run, my legs started hurting. Um, my legs started hurting, and I suffered a nosebleed. So, so these are things that I need to learn to problem solve. But I took the pain in my leg, I locked it away in a part of my brain didn't know existed, and I just continued on because I wanted that distance. It really is true what they say, mind over matter. You, your brain will tell your body to stop, but your body, you can push your body. Um, so you have to keep your mind in check, and this is something that I'm learning to do. Um, so there is things that I am learning to problem solve, and I need to learn quick because I have a backyard ultra coming up at the beginning of March, again with Rasselbach. So I'm going to take pieces of what I had learned last year um and last year's backyard ultra, and I'm going to take it in to the one in March. The jury was very much out on whether or not I was going to run this this backyard ultra. Um, I booked this backyard ultra last year thinking I was the dogs. I was the dogs, man. I had 2 glasses of wine. I don't drink. I do not drink. Um, Purely because I don't want to wake up the following morning and then have to go out and do a run. I much prefer just having a clear mind and not having to run on a fuzzy head or a sick stomach or anything like that. I do drink on the very, very, very rare occasion, Christmas or whatever, but I won't drink in excess. I would maybe have a couple of sips of wine or prosecco, but I just prefer not to drink because my training means so much more to me than having a glass of wine. But anyway, I digress. I had 2 glasses of wine last year when I booked when I booked this backyard ultra, thinking, yeah, man, I can do this, not knowing what I was actually getting myself into. So the jury was very much out on whether or not, and I am panicking about going into this backyard ultra. Absolutely, I'm panicking about going into it because there is going to be people there that are so much better than I am. But again, I need to learn. Well, I not need to learn. I don't. It's not something that I do. Is compare myself to other people. But there's no point in comparing yourself to other people. I used to do that when I very first started running, and we shouldn't do that. And that's something that I have learned, not to compare myself to other people, because comparison is the thief of joy. People are at different points in their journey. I am going to be running with people that have probably been doing this for the last 10, 15 years. Like I say, class myself very much as a newbie ultra runner. This will be my third ultra that I've ran. I've never ran a marathon race. So heading, jumping from half marathon distance into ultra distance, you know, it's crazy and it's mind blowing. Um, so yeah, so these people will probably have been doing this for the last 10 or 15 years, and I need to, bring myself back and not compare myself. Yeah, they're going to be better than me. Of course they are. They've been doing it for however long, but it's still a very daunting task. And I am having a moment of where I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing, Erin? Why are you doing this? And are you good enough? But again, I am of the mindset, if you don't try, you'll never know. And if I don't try and do this, then I'll never know what I would be able to achieve. I am going into it with a distance in mind and a distance that I want to achieve. So I'm going to give it a fair whack and I'm going to give it a fair shot. Absolutely shit myself about it, but it is what it is. It's booked, and I'm not going to just take 105 pound and throw it down the drain and not do it. So, so yes, I'll be on the start line on the 2nd of March in Sherwood Pines, running a backyard ultra, and giving it everything I've got. Like shitting myself. Um, so that's what I've got at the start of March. From the backyard ultra, it's taken me then down south. 2 weeks later, down to Stoner Park, where I'm going to be doing Centurion 100 Hills 50k. This run is going to be very much a training run for me, because in May I'm running the lap in the Lake District. For anybody that doesn't know what the lap is, it's basically a lap of Lake Windermere, and it's 47 miles. So that's what I'm doing in May. The lap is probably going to be one of my A races. The Centurion 50k is, like I say, a training run. This is where I'm going to be testing out nutrition and my electrolytes and things like that. And carrying all my kit that I'm going to be carrying in May. So that's what I'm going to be doing 2 weeks later down in Stoner, and I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, that's leading me then in May into the lap 47 again. That's leading me into the lap in May. Yeah. um, 47 miles around Lake Windermere, all the elevation you could ever hope to achieve. The lap has got a cut-off time of 24 hours. I do have a bit of a time in mind in regards to how long I want it to take me, but again, watch this space. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm not going to put any expectations on myself or limit myself. I just want to get it done. I just want to get the distance done. So from that, from May, I'm going to just try and take a bit of a rest, because then into June, at the beginning of June, I'm doing Endure 24, and I'm doing that as part of a relay team. And then from Endure 24, I'm doing Race to the King, 100 kilometers. So that is going to be my second big race of the year. I haven't really started thinking about Endure 24 or Race to the King yet, because I'm so focused on just the next couple of months and getting to the lap and kind of getting it done. And then I will focus on those last two races. Other than that, I have nothing else booked in. It's in the latter part of the year. So with everything that's happening in the first part of this year, I am setting my sights now towards next year, because I have my sights set on probably one of the biggest races in the UK, I would say, in terms of trail running, and things like that. And I am planning to take from June to December as a proper solid training block. Now, I might run a couple of races, just as a bit of fun, especially wolf run and things like that. Just as a bit of fun, and yeah, just to get me get away, and yeah, just like I say, bit of fun wallowing in the mud. um, so I plan on doing some very heavy training. Colin again is going to coach me towards that. You know, by the way, Colin, you're coaching me towards that. Thanks. So yes, so entries open for that in March, and as soon as entries open, I'm putting my name in. So that from Arc of Attrition 50 will then hopefully lead me into Arc of Attrition 100, because that's kind of where I want to be heading towards. Because again, if you don't try, you don't know. And can I push myself towards that 100-mile mark, especially on terrain, like the Arc of Attrition? So that is my plan. So that is a little bit of insight into where I was in 2019, everything, my journey up until now. Um, you know, coming from that girl to that girl. And what the last few years has taught me about discipline and consistency and changing your mindset, because hell, we can do what we put our minds to. That is very, very true. Um, and you need to believe that you are able to push yourself past that point where you think that you're going to stop. You need to realize that you can actually push yourself past that, and that is something that I'm learning, and that is something that is amazing. And when you realize that, it's actually quite powerful. um and you can push yourself to do anything basically, with the right mindset. So coming from that to that, and all those little bits in between, where not I have consistently pushed myself, and hell, if I can do it, you can do it. um like I say, it just takes the right mindset. So that's that's my plan, and that is my goal for 2025. My god, 2025. And that's where I want to be, and that's where I am looking towards that 50-mile goal, for the minute. So so yeah, so that is where I've come from, all the little bits in between to where I want to be. Um and why the hell not? Why not? You push yourself, you see what you can achieve, and you just grab it by the balls and you just go for it. So that ends it on that. And okay, so I actually put out on Instagram, asked me a question, and I got a couple of questions back. So I'm going to do my best to answer them. Right. What is it you like about being in the mountains, ticking off Wainwrights? What kind of question is that, Colin? What's not to like about being in the mountains, ticking off Wainwrights? My God, unless you go into the mountains, you you just you won't ever know. And I am very lucky to be, I would say, in a minority of people that actually go and spend time in the mountains. Um, being on a mountain, looking out as far as the eye can see, and the views that you have is just, it's mind blowing. And especially when you get it on a clear day, it's just unbelievable. Now, I class myself as a massive tree hugger. I love nature. I absolutely love nature. The sounds, the sights, you're almost at peace. You're at peace, and it is just literally the sound of silence when you're on top of that mountain and there's nobody else around, and you're looking out at the vastness. You realize just how small a piece you are in the grand scheme of things. These mountains will still be here after we're gone, and that is that's something special that, I always like to think as well on a mountain, what kind of people has walked this land before me? And I know that sounds crazy, but it's just like how many people have been here, how many people have seen this. We've become so used to living in our little concrete jungles and scuttling around. I firmly believe that we're not actually designed to live in boxes, to work in boxes. Um, we are we are creation. We should be in creation, and it's amazing. Last year when we were in the Lake District, um, we were we were high up and we were looking down into the valley, and there was a rainbow down in the valley. How many people can say that they've stood above a rainbow? I can say I've stood above a rainbow. Um, and it's just what a sight to behold. Just unbelievable. That's why I love being in the Lake District, seeing things like that. And rainbows are just one of the magical things of this world. they sh- I, they shouldn't be. They're amazing. They are magical, and I do firmly believe that you know there is magic in the world. Um, yeah, I could gush about the Lake District all day, and I could gush about mountains, and I absolutely love it. Um, so yes, that is why I love being in the Lake District, ticking off Wainwrights. Plus, it's a challenge, and I want to get the 214. Okay, second, what do you do when you're deep into a long run and you're just not feeling it? That happens quite often. I would say a good 98% of my long runs, I feel like that. What do? I just get on with it. I lock away that thought and I just get it done. Um, what else do you do? What else do you do? You're deep into a long run. What do you want to do? Are you going to stop and turn around and head home? Or do you continue on? Is it going to be longer to turn around and go home? Or is it going to be longer to continue on and get it done and finish your run? Well, you're going to finish your run and you're just going to go on and do it. It's basically one foot in front of the other. You lock that thought away and you put it into the back of your mind, and you concentrate on the task at hand, and it's one foot in front of the other basically until you finish doing what you need to do. Probably a very simplistic explanation on it, but it is really that simple. Okay, music, podcasts, or audiobooks for my long run. Eesh, okay. So, with this, I don't tend to listen to my headphones when I am on my runs. Um, Purely because the bulk of my training takes place in the mornings and it's dark and I need to be aware of my surroundings. Sad as it is to say, a woman out at 5:30 in the morning, I do need to be aware of my own safety, and as well for hearing traffic, because a lot of my running happens on the pavements and on the roads. And recently I have started to try and build my confidence and take myself onto the trails in the very, very dark early mornings. So I'm not going to wear my headphones whilst I'm doing that, because heck, it's scary enough running trails in the dark at that time of the morning. I don't need to have my headphones on because a bear will probably jump out and try and eat me. Um, so I don't tend to wear my headphones when I am running. But podcasts I would tend to listen to in the car. Um, I have been told about a very good podcast apparently that I'm looking forward to listening to. It's called Diary of a CEO. I have been listening to the Rich Rolls podcast. Okay, in fairness, I did listen to the Rich Rolls podcast last week, whilst it was on my long run, purely because it was out in the daylight. And I felt confident enough on the trails to have my headphones in. Plus, it was Harvey Lewis that was on, and I really wanted to. He had just come off the Biggs Backyard Ultra and absolutely obliterated it. What a dude! So I wanted to hear what Harvey had to say. So I listened to the Rich Rolls podcast. I listened to podcasts like Tea and Trios as well. Audiobooks, I don't really listen to audiobooks. I would rather read a book. Currently reading In the Spell of the Barclay at the minute, which has taken me an absolute freaking lifetime to read because when I come in the evenings, I tend to get changed and then head out to the gym. And by the time I get back from the gym and get showered and get into bed, I'm out like a light to get up and do it all over again the next day. Things like music, I listen to, man, music is a rhythm of life. Music is the absolute rhythm of life. It touches my soul. Music touches my soul. But I have a very wide variety in regards to musical taste. I love rock. I love classical music. You name it, I'm listening to it. My very favourite kind of music is, or very favourite types of bands are bands like Linkin Park, Snow Patrol, Green Day, Foo Fighters. I do enjoy a bit of Backstreet Boys, I'm not going to lie. Guilty pleasure. But yeah, like the likes of Linkin Park, Evanescence, Foo Fighters, that's my jam. I am a rocker chick at heart. So yes, that's the type of music that I enjoy listening to. But like I say, music is a rhythm of life, and I just love listening to all types. When the weather gets a bit better and I am running in brighter days, I will probably put my headphones in when I'm on the trails. And I could possibly listen to the likes of Hauser, who is a classical cellist, or Inodi, who is a classical pianist. Um, and I think music like that, when you're on the trails and you're running in such natural beauty, it really touches my soul. It really, really does touch my soul, and it lifts my spirit and lifts my heart and really fills my heart. Especially when you're looking at the sights and listening to music like that. So beautiful. So that's that. Okay, at what pain level is it still okay to run, both in races but the hard training too? Um, I don't know that I would be qualified to answer that question. However, you need to know what your own pain threshold is. I know what my pain threshold is. I'm okay to run through pain. Like I say, my left leg does hurt when I run, and I'm okay to allow myself to run through that. Uh, that is something that you would kind of need to decide. I don't know that there is really an answer for that. It, like I say, very much depends on you and your pain threshold. I'm sorry, I can't delve more into that. That's uh, that's a one. That very, very much depends on the person and what they're willing to put themselves through. Now, I wouldn't suggest you go out and run with your leg hanging off, uh, or an eyeball hanging out of its socket. You need to decide what you can withstand, and if you're okay to take that pain and lock it away, and just deal with the task at hand and get it done. That has to be down to you. Sorry. Okay, this is this is a question. How do I juggle everything? How do I fit the training around home life, work, etc.? It's a very fine balance. It's a very, very fine balance. Uh, yeah, I deal a lot with mum guilt. I really do deal a lot with mum guilt. I go out early in the mornings. I do the bulk of my running early in the mornings so that I can be home in time for my girls getting up to get ready for school. So just as I'm getting in from my run, they're getting themselves out of bed. I take myself off to the shower, get myself sorted, and then we can have breakfast together. Um, they then go off to work, kiss them, and then I go off to work and they go off to school. And then I get back in from work. By the time I get in from work, they will have eaten, and I grab something quick to eat myself, get changed for the gym. Now, my training over the course of the last week has really been, especially in the evenings. I do a lot of double days where I will run in the morning and go to the gym in the evening. My gym in the evenings this week hasn't been amazing because of trying to record this, trying to get this podcast sorted. Um, so yes, they have already eaten. I get something to eat, get changed for the gym, spend an hour with them. By that time, we're winding down for bed. So just I will either go just before they're getting into bed or get them into bed and then head to the gym. So it is very fine. Um, it's a hard one. It is very, very hard. And with the races that I'm doing, and you probably tell the look on my face, with the races I'm doing this year, it's taking me away from home quite a bit, and away from the girls quite a bit. They seem to be okay with it because whilst I'm not here, they get to go out and do lovely things and go. I mean, they get to do lovely things anyway, but there's probably a little bit more of an effort put into it when I'm not here. Um, so, so that's the guilt that I have to deal with, not being around and missing out on weekends probably with them. But equally, this is a passion of mine, and they know how much I love it and enjoy doing it. Um, and yeah, it is it is a very fine balance. It's a very, very fine balance. So yeah, trying to juggle everything, it's hard. It's not easy, and it's not well. It's yeah, I am probably missing out on quite a bit, but whilst they're doing lovely things, I'm doing lovely things. um, but yeah, I think they get it and they know, and hopefully, with my training and they see me being consistent and being disciplined, then hopefully they can take what they see mum doing and and put it into their life as they get older, and whatever that may be, whether that be their career or they go into a sport of some kind and they follow their passion, then they will see what discipline and consistency does. It pays off. But yes, it's hard. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's really, really not. And for me anyway, you have to just deal with it. But anyway, that ends that question. And I'm going to wrap this up because I've been gabbing on for the last hour. So I really hope you've enjoyed what I've had to say. You've enjoyed listening to my journey coming from that girl that I was back in 2019 to this average average ultra runner who absolutely loves what she does, and has a severe passion for it, and wants to grow something in regards to this podcast, and wants to grow something in regards to this Mama Runs club, and build a community. So I do hope that you have enjoyed listening to me for the last hour and a bit, and if you have, please do like and subscribe and head over to the Instagram pages and like those as well. Like I say, I do have people coming on to share their stories as well. So I am looking forward to getting this up and running properly, getting people on to talk to, and sharing what makes them tick, and doing what they do. Sorry. I heard a really great phrase today. I was talking to a patient in work and he was asking me, why do I do it? And why do I do what I do? And I said, why not? And he said, why not indeed? Because he was questioning me on my running and things like that. So why not? Why not give it a go? So I am definitely looking forward to hearing everybody's why nots. So I'm going to wrap this up here. Like I say, I hope you've enjoyed listening to what I've had to say. I hope you've enjoyed listening to my story this far. And yeah, like and subscribe. Thank you.